Welcome to Oaa Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to Oaa Now. I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blog of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts tweeting to me is on Orion Neighborhood Television. I'd like to welcome our friends watching on YouTube. And I got Ian locked back for a fifth straight week here, and also on Orion on ON TV radio today.
Yeah, I'm the bad penny, Sam. I keep showing up.
Yeah, you haven't been a bad penny at all. I mean, being honest with you, you have not been a bad penny at all.
Good to hear, good to hear.
Yep. Of course, we all know the OAA right now. I believe it's the best football conference in the entire state of Michigan.
Yep, we dissected that.
That last week. But we got a lot to talk about today. Of course, basketball season is officially underway, which means, oh my goodness, we got some breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Yes, we do. We got some breaking news here. Yep. And girls basketball, Ferndale has named a new girls basketball coach. Her name is Christina Nagel. Of course, she was an assistant under Cody Fletcher last season. Of course, the assistant being promoted to the head gig after Fletcher left the program.
Okay.
Ferndale finished the year at 5-16 and 0-10 in the gold last year.
Ooh.
Now they went up. Now, of course, with the league splitting up to 3 divisions, they're in the blue division, and it could get real ugly. For Ferndale. And I think when you look at the Eagles, they have a ton of experience. They don't have a lot of experience, but back. They have 2 players returning in Ronnie Lynn and Moya Patwan, and they got some emerging sophomores, but they're trying to look for change of culture. Of course, you know what's the sad part of this is Ferndale in the gold division is 0-31.
In their division?
Yeah.
No.
The last 3.5 years, they have not won a league game.
That's too bad. That's tough.
It's very tough, for a program they've only have just a varsity team on there. They don't have a freshman or a JV program.
Really?
No,
I didn't see Ferndale as being that small where you couldn't field extra.
They are very small.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Of course, in football, Ferndale, of course, has Ferndale University, and they merged those 2 teams into the MHA co-op program.
Okay.
So that is the breaking news. Of course, Ferndale's got a new girls basketball coach. Right now, Ferndale off to an 0-1 start. Did not look good in their game. But let's look, that is our breaking news right now. But let's go back to boys basketball a little bit. Of course, I want to get to a big-time story that's been going on, of course, and that is the Thomas Kitchener situation at Clarkston.
Share it with everybody if they're not familiar.
If you're not familiar with Thomas Kitchener, of course, he was the transfer from Macomb, Dakota, who went to Clarkston. However, Macomb, Dakota filed a investigation with the MHA regarding his transfer, and over the summer, of course, see if it was athletically motivated. So when you look at, of course, Kitchener moved to Clarkston. He lives in Clarkston. But they're checking up on Kitchener's status because Kitchener not only is going to Michigan State next year, but he's also playing on Foster Lawyer's AAU team along with Taylor Curie. Of course, they all played on the same AAU team. And, of course, now they're putting this together at Clarkston.
And Clarkston is they're ranked nationally.
They're ranked nationally. I mean, they're obviously a top team in the state of Michigan. They're out to 1-0 start after beating Wayne Memorial 65-55 on Tuesday. Yep.
Tight one.
Behind Lawyer. It wasn't really tight. I mean, Clarkston just dominated the second, third quarters, but Lawyer at 23 and Curie at 20. I mean, that was the difference there in that game. But, I read something very interesting from Dan Fife, and I want you to hear this.
I'm here.
He said, quote, "I would never do anything to jeopardize our reputation nor gain an unfair advantage on any other school. I've been raised to always follow the rules, and I pass that on to every kid that ever played on any of my teams, including my 3 sons." That's interesting.
Clarkston has never been
they've been
involved in anything like this in the past,
no,
have
they're
they?
not. I mean, like, well, actually, take that back. I mean, like, when you look at the transfers that they got, Dylan Alderson, when they won, he came from Davison. They had another one who came over from Walled Lake Northern.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name. It's not on the tip of my tongue right now, but
I mean, they had
Clarkston's really benefited from
Yes.
getting transfers. I mean, you look at Taylor Curie coming over from Ohio. You look at, of course, they added a Virginia transfer, and they added a Virginia kid who transferred in from Maryland.
Yeah.
I mean, they added and then of course Foster Lawyer. Of course, Foster Lawyer was not a Clarkston kid to start. He was not a Clarkston kid.
Yeah.
I'm saying that for the record because he transferred in from middle school and at middle school year, and he basically played, and he's got plenty of basketball experience considering his dad is the used to be the former coach of Detroit Pistons, John Lawyer.
Yes, and I remember reading a story about that whole thing. I mean, because when you, like you said, and we talk about it in football too, a lot of transfers coming in, the red flag kind of goes up, But with the Lawyer thing is, I remember hearing the dad saying he actually, when they were moving to Michigan and they were going to settle here and live here because of the Pistons, right?
Right.
They were going to not recruit coaches, but interview and find out what are the communities that have a basketball coach that would fit his son because he saw some potential in him, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't pick anything wrong with
Fife.
With Fife and proximity to the Palace. I mean, it's right around the corner. It just makes sense.
Yeah, but when you look at this situation now, I mean,
I don't know if it's different, but
I think when you look at, if the MHA says, and they're supposed to make a ruling by this week, and if they say that Kitchener's eligible to play, I think there's going to be a lot of people up in arms over this, especially those who have to play him, and especially those in the red division who have to play him.
Yeah.
Because when you look at Clarkston, they really don't need Kitchener. Because you got
they're loaded already.
They're loaded already. When you look at Lawyer, you look at C.J. Robinson, you look at Nick Wells, you look at of course you have a guy named Matt Nicholson who's a 6'10 forward. You got Tristan Myson who's I don't think's not a Clarkston kid. Chase Wasilic, he's a Clarkston kid.
Yeah.
And
last year's team, how many are back?
4 starters are back.
Yeah,
You look at the only one that's not back was Dylan Alderson. And Alderson basically he now at Toledo playing Division I college basketball. So when you look at Clarkston, you know what I mean? But I ask this question to you. If I'm a Clarkston kid, dreaming all my life to play for the Clarkston Wolves, and I'm working my tail off to get in, to work hard. I go to the Dan Fife summer camps. I'm basically saying, okay, here's my chance, my opportunity to play.
You're in the system.
Yeah, you're in the system. And then you see a transfer coming in who basically takes your spot. How would you feel if that kid comes and takes your spot?
Well, as a kid, I can see you'd be ticked off thinking, well, hey, that was my spot. But one thing about Fife, everything's earned as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. I was a swimmer years and years and years ago, and there was no expectation of, we didn't have transfers in swimming, in a little rural town of Dexter. No. But what you did have was you earned everything, right? You start at the bottom, you work your way up. If you earn your spot, you get your spot. Mm-hmm. If you get there and you rest on your laurels and you don't do your job, you're out. But it's got to be difficult. It could seem like you're working your way up the mountain. Mm-hmm. You say, here it is, I'm going to have a shot, and then bammo, it's gone. Some people work harder then to try to earn that spot back.
I mean, we've had Dan Fife on BT between terminus. I mean, I know how honest he is.
Yeah,
but. I just think that Fife's in a really bad situation, in my opinion, because, when you look at, you won your state championship last year. You know, you're likely favored to repeat as state champions. But, when you look at how Clarkston traditionally has always been, I know Coach Fife wants to see his kids succeed. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like
Just
go
like
through the
just
system.
like every
Go
coach.
through the system.
Yes.
Go through the system, and basically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And basically, like, but with these transfers, what
Yeah.
they have with these transfers, you know, it's really
It's a high number and
dangerous.
It is, and the I can see the issue. Anytime you have the word investigation floating around, it's got to make the coach feel a little uneasy. You can feel confident that yes, you followed all the rules and you did what you had all your your ducks in a row, and hey, somebody moved in. They're living in the community. We have some instances where people are going, I'm living in the community.
Right.
They're renting
They're really
apartments
not.
that
I mean,
nobody's
when
been
you look
sleeping
at
there,
what's
right?
going on,
It's
you know,
only
when-
as an address.
When he really knows what's going on. I mean,
Correct.
the situation, how that's unfolding is it's basically looking at the situation how it is, and you look at I'm a guy. I'm a kid that's dreaming to play for like a school, and you see her, and then you see that spot getting taken away. You know, it's unfortunate.
It's
really
difficult.
unfortunate. I mean, Fife said after the conclusion, he said he was somewhat annoyed by it, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
He says I don't want to comment on it too much because he doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And and I don't blame him. I really don't blame Fife for what's going on.
He's not some guy that just showed up yesterday
No,
and all of a sudden
he's a
has
legend.
a bucket load of transfers rolling in, and you go from 0 to 100.
He's a legend. You know what I mean?
yes.
He's a legend. You know
He's
what I
been
mean?
around. He knows the rules.
He knows
what's
the
going on.
rules. He knows what's going on.
I'll give
I
him
mean,
the benefit of the doubt before.
But but I know there's some people that are saying that with Fife is, you look at the kids. I know Clarkston's an open enrolled school.
Yeah.
And they get kids that come from Holly. They get some kids from, down in Ortonville, and down in the Flint area. You know what I mean? To get there. Do you think the open enrollment has kind of really benefited the Clarkston's boys basketball program?
Well, I think so. I don't know if it's direct. I mean, open enrollment, if you're moving in just to say, well, my family's moving in, and open enrollment means that you don't necessarily have to live in the community to go to school there, right? So open enrollment has had a variety of effects on the school districts. Having worked in a school district for a number of years, you know that, people, you can have populations increase and decrease and seesaw back and forth, and it's difficult on, funding and that sort of stuff for education. I don't want to get too technical on this, John, because we're talking sports. But yeah, it can.
But it does affect sports.
It does affect it. Now, I worked in the Waterford schools, and Mott saw a lot of this when they did open enrollment.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
Pontiac was pouring in the top players from Pontiac, pouring in, or they were going to have, sprinting off. And they had some decent teams, and it worked out in their favor. I mean, but it's changed the landscape.
I think it has. When you look at, my thoughts of Thomas Kitchener. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It seems like they would have this
know,
cleared up before he even moved.
Yeah.
I
thought that they would, but I guess they have not. And I really think Emmett Shaney should change his leadership, in my opinion. I've said that for years. But if you want to enforce the rules, I don't think you make Kitchener play this year.
Really?
I really don't. Here's why. Because,
bold statement, Sam.
Because, when you look at Clarkston from a team perspective, they don't even need him. I mean, you have enough depth on your team. Clarkston's got about 14 players on the roster, 14, 15 kids on the roster, and you have a very good JV program down there. They got 3 juniors down there in their junior varsity program. And, what's the point? You have a kid, you have virtually two centers ready to go. You have Nicholson there, you have Curie there. Curie can play the 4, Nicholson can play the 5.
Yeah.
That can basically that sets everything up. You have Nick Wells playing the small forward, you have Robinson and Lawyer. I mean, then you have your bench. You have Myson, Wasilic. I mean, they've got a deep bench. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous what they got over there. But I mean,
but it goes back to the kid, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he walked up to his parents and said, "I want to go to Clarkston"?
Well, I know he had some issues with Paul. I know he had some issues with Macomb, Dakota before he left.
Yeah.
So, and figuring, if he was going to play his senior year at a prep school, I heard rumblings Tom Izzo was against him going to Clarkston. That's what I heard rumblings.
Well, you know why? Because there's potential that you can get
correct
a year off
for a year. Yeah,
and that's not what Izzo wants coming in. Someone who's been
right.
I mean, obviously he'll be training and he'll play AAU ball, but
I agree. But but AAU and playing high school ball is a lot different.
Yeah,
playing AAU ball and high school ball. I mean, when you look at the situation surrounding that move, I personally believe, if they find out, and there's a lot of evidence here that states that this was athletically motivated. There's some evidence here. When you look at, Kitchener played on Lawyer's AAU team, and Curry's AAU team, and you look at
a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Evidence leading up to it. So the MHA right now, they claim right now that they're holding Kitchener out until the second semester. And
now, when did they move?
They moved
spring?
in the summer.
Oh, in the summer. Well, don't you have to sit out a semester, right? That's the rules.
Well, yeah, that's
correct?
The rules. Technically, you have to sit out a semester.
And that's what he's doing.
That's what he's doing. But the question is now, what they're trying to find out is, what's this athletically motivated?
And if so, he'd have to
sit out a year.
Yeah.
Then, he's a senior, you know what I mean? And
boy, for the parents and his guardians or whatever, it seems like they would have walked a finer line to make sure that this was as clean as possible to not even risk it. I mean, if you have a player of that caliber,
he's a very good player.
Why would you risk it?
I mean, why would you risk it? Was it? Everybody says, you want to play with the best player in the state, and arguably Foster Lawyer is the best player in the state of Michigan right now. And a lot of people, I know there's some people that say this, but a lot of people transfer into Clarkston because they want to play with Foster Lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And arguably, he gets those kids better over there at Clarkston. When you look at C.J. Robinson, you look at a Taylor Curie. I mean, Matt Nicholson. That's basically that's like a gold mine right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, Clarkston plays a ridiculous schedule. They got to play. I got to play Carmen Ainsworth on Thursday.
That'll be a good game. That's
going to be a tough game. They got Lake Orion on Monday. That'll be at home. I mean, they still got to play Orchard Lake St. Mary's. They got to play Detroit East English Village Prep and Detroit Pershing.
Oh, wow.
So not an easy slate for Clarkston coming up with their non-conference.
Wow.
Let's talk about another team here that's really gotten me interesting, and that is Lake Orion. I mean, you look at the Dragons. I mean, this is a team that's got a ton of experience. I mean, Lake Orion's a team I think that, if healthy, can be a very dangerous team. Now, Jamie Lewis got hurt in that game. He cramped up.
Is that what it was?
That's what happened.
Okay.
He cramped up.
Because the ONTV cameras were at that game.
Yes, they were.
And that'll be on ONTV Channel 10, hopefully Thursday night, which will be, what's today, the 6th? So there'll be December 7th will be the launch.
It'll be interesting to see how Lake Orion responds to that one.
But he came back, though.
Yeah, but Lake Orion beat a really gritty, good Avondale team, 77-62. When you look at
gritty is a great term for Avondale.
Avondale is a really gritty team. I really like that team.
Ton of heart, man. They were down 20 at one point, right?
20 at one point. Then they came back, get it down within 7.
Yeah.
And then Lake Orion, they just couldn't. I mean, Avondale's a very young team.
Yeah,
they are a very young basketball team.
And
when you look at Avondale, of course, they returned Martin Cole, who was their returning starter from a year ago. I mean, the Yellow Jackets, they lost a ton of experience from a year ago. And to see that showing, a 62-point showing. Now, the free throws, it came down to free throws. Avondale was 8 for 25.
Yeah, they had a hard time at the line.
Yeah, I mean, they're free. If I know Tim Wharton, what he's doing right now, he's getting that team right now, hitting some free throws right now. Well, they got to hit some free throws.
That's true, and that was the turning point. And I would say early turnovers killed them against the Dragons as well. But the Dragons came out on fire. I mean, they were in the passing lanes. They had hands up. They were tipping balls. They really disrupted the flow early of the offense of the Yellow Jackets. But the crazy thing at the end with the scrambling, I don't know if this is a spoiler alert. Everybody knows the results. But that press they put on at the last 8 minutes or 4 minutes of the game, you better watch out, because they better employ that for most of their games, because it was tenacious and nasty.
I think, when you look at Lake Orion, this is a team that could be a really dangerous contender in the Blue Division this year. When you look at,
they look good.
They look really good. Of course, other games around the area. Got to talk about Pontiac. Of course, Pontiac, I think Pontiac right now, early favorite in the Blue, even though you got Lake Orion there, Rochester there, Farmington's there, Ferndale's even there. We're going to talk about Ferndale in a minute.
Okay.
But they lost in overtime to Detroit Community 57-55.
Ooh.
And Pontiac, of course, they got some experience. They added a transfer from Georgia. And they also got Shalante Brown back, of course, their big center, who Oxford fans should know quite well. I mean, what happened in that game. But Pontiac, of course, this is a team that came down from the white. They were last place last year. They were 3-17, 0-10 in the white.
Tough year.
And they got some players back. You got Dominic Showall, Shalante Brown, Devon Cole, DeQuarian Cole, and then, of course, the transfers mentioned, of course, is DeLance Thomas. I mean, Thomas is really, I think, taking over the role of that point guard spot for Dorian Kellum, of course, who was kicked off the team because he had some legal issues surrounding him. So when you look at Pontiac, of course, losing by 2 to Detroit Community was not as good last year. They were 8-12 last year.
Okay.
And when you look at Joe Schroeder's team, Pontiac, a lot of people are high on the Phoenix this year. They are very high on them. So when you look at Pontiac, this is an interesting team to keep an eye on for sure. Yeah,
and, moving down the division, sometimes it sparks a team and gets them to turn around a little bit, get some W's in the right column, right? And see how they do for the rest of the season. How many games have they played so far this year?
This is their first game.
First game, all right.
Yeah. A lot of these teams, some of them are going to be playing their first game this upcoming weekend. Let's talk about Rochester. They beat Detroit University Prep. They're not very good, though, 68-50. Basically, Rochester's got a lot back. Hunter Schlachner, the Gulich brothers, Corey and Lamarco. Lamarco and Schlachner had 21 points each in that game.
Wow.
I didn't think Detroit University Prep was that good.
Okay.
And you know what, in that game, but good win for Vance Kirkwood, his first game as head coach. He took over the program. Of course, Kirkwood was an assistant at Royal Oak last year. So good win for Rochester.
Yeah, you get two dudes that can score 20. That's always a good sign. That's
always is when you have a guard and a big who can do that.
Yeah,
and that big's a lefty. So
oh boy,
yeah. So that's
a wrinkle for any defense.
And I've got to give Brad Crichton credit here. He got his first win of the year. Beating Utica 62-37. They were 0-20 last year.
Wow.
0-21 last year. Good win for Brad Crichton.
Absolutely.
Of course, beating Utica 62-37. Good win there for them. Nobody Detroit Catholic Central smashed Seaholm the other night. 76-38.
Ooh.
That was brutal.
That's tough.
It's tough. Very, very tough.
On the road or at home?
It was in Novi.
Okay.
So, very good win there. But I want to talk about Ferndale. Ferndale's a team that they were down 53-41 after 3 quarters against Birmingham Brother Rice.
That's their first game of the season?
Yep. They came back, stunned them, 66-64. Behind 23 points from DeAndre Bonaparte. They had 15 and 17 respectively. They scored 56 or 66.
Wow.
3 players scoring that type of points for Ferndale. It probably tells me that I think when you look at the blue right now, the teams in the blue, and then that's not mentioning Berkeley's win over East Point, 42-31.
Whoa.
Yeah, low scoring game. Good defense ever for Joe Sermo and his team. What's your thoughts about the blue division now? When you look at the blue, when you have Lake Orion, Pontiac, Rochester, Berkeley,
it could be.
It could be I think the Blue could be the most competitive division out of the three teams, three leagues.
It's starting to sound that way if you have scores and if you got some teams that are defensive minded. It doesn't sound like anything's going to be a cakewalk. A lot of balance.
Berkeley's a perfect example being a defensive first team when you look at what Joe Sermel's done with that team. But when you look at the white, when you look at that division, of course, Troy Athens beating Utica Eisenhower 63-58. That was a good win. Terry McCaskill had 26 points in that one. Bloomfield Hills, of course, they're in the red, though. They beat Plymouth Christian Academy 59-48. Of course, nice win for Coach Phil Kirchen, his first game as a head coach. But there's one team I want to talk about, another one. And, of course, another one is Southfield Christian destroying Southfield Arts and Tech 75-48.
Yeah, that's
Southfield Arts and Tech's replacing a lot of talent from last year's team. And remember, let's not forget, Southfield Arts and Tech gave Clarkston their only loss last year.
Yeah, and that's a shocking score. But like you said, they lost a lot from last year, and sometimes you got to break in the new recruits.
They got to bring them in. Break them in, bring the new recruits in, bring the whole kit and caboodle in there, getting them up to speed. And then I want to talk about Oxford and Romeo. I mean, that was a game that was on Tuesday. Romeo beat Oxford 61-50. Of course, the good folks at OCTV is going to have that game.
So that was up in at
Oxford.
Oh boy, good road win for Romeo then.
When you look at that one, Oxford's replacing a lot from last year. You look at Jordan Lavalas, Jordan Jaden, Ray Levine are gone. You look at Oxford now. You have Michael Raish back. You have Jimmy Claudio. You have another one in Luke Townshend. He's back. But when you look at Oxford, this is a team that's going through a transition period themselves. And you look at Oxford, what's your thoughts on the Wildcats?
Well,
Steve Laidlaw's team.
Well, it's always, just like any other level of basketball, when you change your personnel, the guys who are coming back have to get used to the new guys, right? The gel. You got to gel with your teammates. Do they know each other? These guys usually know each other. They play in the summer leagues together. There's no mystery there. But once it gets under the nitty gritty, high school basketball, Division I, varsity level, how are they going to handle it?
But do you think you look at the transition from, of course, I'm going to use an example from new coaches taking over a program going from year 1 to year 2.
Usually see the biggest jump in improvement.
But
absolutely,
when you have a team that's young, let's take a look at, I'm going to use Lake Orion, for example, last year. Of course, 2 years ago, Lake Orion had a good team.
Yes.
Led by David Gomez. Last year kind of was a setback because that team was very young.
Yeah.
And, what
was the record last year?
Last year, where they were 4-16.
Yeah, it was tough.
And now you look at Steve Laidlaw's team. Last year, Oxford won 14 games. Now they're going through a coaching transition. Oxford's a team that I think could do some damage. They won 17 games last year, Oxford did. My bad on that. I apologize to the folks at Oxford. They won 17 games last year. But when you're replacing 10 players from a team that really is young, you have guys like Jimmy Claudio, Grant Kornberger, you have Lawrence Townshend, on that team. It's going to be, they're going to have to grow up a little bit this year, when you look at
quickly, because the losses can mount fast in this league.
Oh yeah, especially in the white division when you have some teams like Stony Creek and when you have teams like Stony Creek, Rochester. There's some big games on Friday. I think they're gonna be really interesting games. Yeah. I think Lake Orion Oxford's a big one. I think Pontiac Notre Dame Prep's a big one. Rochester and Stony Creek's a big one.
Always a big one.
And Troy and Avondale. I think that's a big one, too.
Yeah.
When you look at those 4 games, that's going to be very interesting.
All in one night. What a nice night of basketball for the OAA.
It'll be a really nice night of basketball throughout in that league. It's not going to be an easy game for sure.
Yeah.
When you look at those type of teams. But those are the 4 games I'm keeping an eye on Friday night.
Those are good picks.
Yep. Those are my 4 games I'm keeping an eye on.
I'm excited to see Oxford. They're coming into Lake Orion's barn, right? Mm-hmm. So that should be an interesting game.
That'll be an interesting game.
Yep. And I don't know. I haven't looked at the schedule, but do they play each other twice,
They play
home
them
and
once
away?
this year.
Once. See?
Because they're in different divisions.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. They're in different
That's
divisions.
too bad. Mm-hmm. You always like to have that home and away. And
oh, yeah. I mean,
that makes
you always got to look at
makes it a
that.
good
You got to
time.
look at rivalries like that. You know, I mean, like Lake Orion's got to see their rivals once, but Troy Athens, they got to play once.
Yeah.
But, you know, Groves and Seaholm, you know what I mean? They play twice.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and of course you have And of course, you have Farmington and Harrison. They play each other twice this year. Two rivals.
And
there.
how's the Harrison guys team? You know, we were
Harrison this year.
because we were talking about the girls earlier.
They do have a team. They have a team. I mean, like they have a team. They just have a JV and varsity program over. Actually, they have two teams over there. They have,
well, good for them.
They have freshman JV and a varsity team. But I've got some concerns with their defensive mindset. I mean, they do. I think Harrison's going to be a team, you know, to keep an eye on. I mean, like, but I think they can win a division? No.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you look at Harrison, I mean,
I'm just happy they got enough bodies because
they got enough bodies. Yep.
It's tough to hear, you know, on the girls' side that they shut the program down.
I know it's very difficult surrounding them. It's very, very difficult. I mean, you know, but I think when I look at the projections in my boys preview, I think Harrison's going to really have some issues. I know Royal Oak, they're very young too. I mean, the Blue this year is going to be, it wouldn't surprise me the Blue's the best division out of all three divisions.
Really?
In boys basketball. Because you look at the teams in that division, I think are pretty balanced. You have Rochester, you have Pontiac, Lake Orion, you have Farmington, Ferndale. I mean, you know, those in Berkeley, you know, I think you have 6 teams there in that division that bring different styles that can do very much different things. I mean, you know.
And that's the fun thing about high school basketball is that you get so much variety of, I mean, coaches will put in a system that you don't see every day, right? And because you might have one player that is the key offensive player, right? And so that is the joy of high school basketball to me, is to seeing the variety. And I mean, even the Lake Orion Avondale game last night, just the difference in the way they handled themselves and would play the game.
And they play different systems, you know what I mean?
And it was exciting up and down. I mean, that was an exciting game. It was entertaining,
very entertaining,
high level at times, sloppy at times, just like high school basketball.
And then when you look at the red, nobody's touching Clarkston. West Bloomfield probably's got
way up there.
They're way up there. West Bloomfield's probably the next best, and then it's everybody else. And then you look at well, Troy's probably the third best team in that division, and then the white division, it could be somewhat balanced. You got Oak Park, Stony Creek, basically in there, but you got Adams could have a say, Oxford could have a say, Avondale could even have a say.
They could.
You know, I think Avondale could be a team that could be worth watching. Seaholm, I'm not high on Seaholm right now. Groves is very young, you know, when you look at Groves. So,
but get out there. Hey, if you're listening, get out there and go see a game. If it's happening in town, get out there. Because it's a good time. The kids work hard, and show them your support. I always say that on the telecast I'm working on, is get out there and show them support. One thing to watch it on replay or listen to it on replay, but get out there in person and cheer those guys on.
I agree with you.
It's completely different atmosphere.
Completely different. It's worth the admission.
Absolutely.
All right, now we come back. We're going to talk about girls basketball. Of course, they are underway in the midst of the season. We're going to talk about some teams' recent struggles here on Oaa Now.
This is Lake Orion's own, the local voice. Call ONTV and get on air 248-393-1060. Let your voice be heard. Internet radio for all. Call ONTV and get on air.
Oakland County is consistently ranked as one of the wealthiest counties in the nation, so it may come as a surprise to many when they find out that hunger is an ever-increasing problem in this area. Oxford Orion Fish Food Pantry does what it can to help battle hunger, but it needs your help. More than 350 individuals depend on the food pantry on a monthly basis, with over 15,000 pounds of food going out the door every month. 145,000 pounds of food helped feed the area's hungry in 2014 alone. The food pantry depends on annual food drives and the generosity of community organizations and businesses to help keep their shelves stocked.
I think we have more peaks than we really do valleys. This year we've been doubly, just very, very fortunate. Our stock has been wonderful. Food drives have been, I think it's like 25,000 pounds of food. We got from one food drive another 20,000. That is a good portion of the food that we put out a year. And then people bring in every day. They will come in with bags of food that they want to donate, and it's just we couldn't be in a better community. I'll tell you, it's just wonderful.
A single individual is limited to 50 pounds of food each month. A family of 7, 180 pounds. In addition to canned and dry goods, the pantry also needs household items such as soap, shampoo, toothpaste, and laundry detergent. Cash donations allow the pantry to purchase perishable items such as meat, bread, dairy, and fresh fruits and vegetables.
Fruit is more seasonal in the summer, like berries and things like that. But we're trying to give them a fresher, healthier choice. We have frozen chicken breasts, and that's a nice treat once in a while. Roasts and steaks and ground beef and all that stuff. So, and we just buy what we need. We fill in what does not get donated.
There are numerous drop-off locations established throughout the Oxford and Orion area that collect food year-round, such as the Lake Orion Post Office, Hollywood Market, and area churches. For a complete list or for contact information, visit their website at oxfordorionfish.org or give them a call at 248-628-3933.
Welcome back to Oaa Now. I'm Sammy Termine here. I got Ian Locke with me here.
I'm still here, Sam.
You're still here.
Fifth week in a row? Is it 5?
Fifth week, yes.
It doesn't feel like we had a lot of interesting things to chat about over the last 5 weeks, man.
We talked about
been
boys
exciting.
We talked about boys basketball. Now let's talk about the females. Of course, the girls basketball.
Yeah, Lady Hoops.
Lady Hoops, of course, some shocking teams that are really doing well. I mean, some are really struggling. North Farmington off to a 2-0 start. But I really have not been impressed with their schedule. Of course, they've really benefited from, of course, having a really good big in the post in Sam Cherney. She's been doing very well. She's had double-doubles the last 2 games.
Wow.
I mean, she had 25 and 13 against Walled Lake Northern, who basically does not really have a true interior. And their schedule really doesn't really test them as much, until they get to red play. I mean, North Farmington right now, eyeing up the best team in the red right now. Now, some teams that are really head-scratching me right now, Southfield Arts and Tech, they're off to an 0-2 start. I mean,
really?
they've played, now Southfield Arts and Tech's played a Birders Row of a schedule, as we know. I mean,
What are their first 2 games?
They played against some really good competition. I mean, they played against, they played against some teams, some top-ranked teams in the Carmen Ainsworth. They lost that one pretty convincingly, and then they lost. Then they lost their first game. I cannot remember the team they lost to, but it was a pretty good team they lost to. But when you look at the Warriors, they've got some interesting pieces. Besides Shai McEvans, and Alexis Johnson. I mean, they're going to add a transfer in the second half of the semester, and Kiana Willis, who's coming over from Detroit Renaissance, true point guard. But this team, I think right now, do you think playing a tough schedule right now, I think it could be hurting your team's confidence right now?
Well, that can happen in any sport.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about in football, right? You get to, but it can also benefit you ultimately. But Interesting question saying that can it hurt your confidence? It can, depending on the maturity of your team. If you got a young team, it might knock them down. If you got a mature team, they know it's just part of the ups and downs.
But when you're looking at Southfield, Michelle Marshall always plays a tough schedule.
Yeah.
Non-conference, you know what I mean? When you look at, of course, I'm looking at teams right now that are really struggling right now. When you look at Stony Creek's played a tough, their first 2 games against 2 very good teams. The other one I forgot they lost to was Wall Lake Western. Yep, and then Wall Lake Western also played Stony Creek and beat them, and then they played Waterford Kettering, and Kettering's a pretty good team there. So, to me, see Kellen James' team 0-2.
They beat Kettering?
No, they lost.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was going to say.
And the C. Kellen James' team right now sitting at 0-2 right now. When you look at the schedules, compare those 2 schedules, I expect the James' team to be 0-2.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect Southfield Arts and Tech to be 0-2. Nobody did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're right now looking at 0-2. I mean, they still got to play some really good teams coming up. Stony Creek, they played a murderer's row schedule. I got to give Kellen James a lot of credit. With the young team that he's got on that team and the play a murderer's row with schedule there, I thought about maybe talking to Paul Feinbaum about Kellen James's team. I think that would be I think he would be a perfect if Kellen James needed to see if he ever needed to go see like what you call like those a psychiatrist.
A shrink?
Yeah, shrink, yeah. I think Paul Feinbaum's the perfect shrink for Kellen James. I really do.
Lay him on the couch and have at it.
Lay him on the couch and have at it. And they still got to play Flat Rock. They still got to play Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, Oxford. And Utica's a decent team, you know what I mean? And that's not counting league play yet for Kellen James' team. I think Kellen James right now has to see. I think he's got a good team. I like Stony Creek's team a lot, But I think personally for Kellen James, he needs to see Paul Feinbaum. He needs to take advice from Paul Feinbaum when it comes to scheduling, not conference.
Yeah, it's almost like you look at Izzo.
Yeah. Well, actually,
who in the top 10 haven't we played this year yet? That's that sort of thing in the past. But
Stony Creek's played a ridiculous schedule. But, let's look at Birmingham Seaholm.
Sure.
They're 0-3.
Oh, boy. They
played Warren Kuzma was very good.
Yep.
Waterford Mott, so-so. Then they lost to Plymouth Salem. January Haleski has had a habit of playing top 9 conference schedules. Now, her team's in the white division. And they still have to play Lake Orion. We'll go over them in a minute.
Yeah.
But... when you're in a division where you have to deal with Groves, who is very good, Royal Oak, who's very good, Oxford, the wild card team here in this league. Seaholm, when you look at Seaholm, I wrote in my blog earlier, previewing them, I said they were in trouble because they lost a ton of talent from a year ago. They can't score right now. That's the issue Seaholm's got right now.
Yeah, if you don't have the horses to get the buckets, makes for a very difficult time.
Really is.
Yeah.
Speaking of a team that's having a really difficult time, it's the Rochester Falcons. They are 0-4 right now.
They've had 4 games already? Wow, that seems high.
They've had some really questionable losses. They lost to Milford 53-40, 53-30.
53-30.
Yep. Lost to Utica Ford. Utica Ford was just destroyed by Farmfield's Mercy at Callahan Hall, 50-13. And 50-13. And they had a loss to Avondale. Avondale's pretty good this year.
Yeah.
I like Avondale's team a lot. But the one loss that's really going to stun me was Rochester lost 35-33 to Rochester Hills Lutheran Northwest.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's not one you would expect.
That's not what I thought. I thought this would be an easy W for Rochester.
Because what's the enrollment at Lutheran Northwest?
They're not big.
No.
They're not big at all. When you look at
Yeah, that's
I know
difficult.
Al Pointer's trying to change the culture there. He took over for Adam Sheldon, and he's got a really tough job fixing that team. And he's got some talent back. But it takes that talent to fit in. I think they're fitting into it. I think they're not getting the results, but the loss to Rochester, Hills, Luther, and Northwest is kind of a setback for me.
Yeah,
It really is.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
when
a
you
tough
look at
loss.
when you look at, of course, in the Rochester area, you have Adams, you have Stony Creek. You know, if Adams has played Rochester, Hills, Luther, and Northwest in the season, I think Adams beats them by 20.
Yeah.
I think Stony Creek beats them by 30. You know what I mean? That's how rough it is for Rochester. They're in the white right now. But I have a lot of confidence in Al Pointer. I think he's going to get this fixed. I really do.
Well, we'll
I got confidence in Al
week in,
Pointer.
week out, we'll take a peek.
Yeah, we'll take a peek at him. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I always keep a peek on everybody around the league. I mean, but for Al Pointer, this to me, this loss to Luther Northwest, it's got to be rock bottom for this team. It's got to be rock bottom. I mean, it's hard to explain. I mean,
It was a tight one, too. I mean, 2 points, right?
Yeah.
35-33.
but this is a game they should not have lost.
Yeah.
Was that one? They
But
should not have lost.
I mean, sometimes you've seen them, Sam. You've seen, how many games have you seen? You've
I've seen a
hundreds and
ton,
thousands.
hundreds of thousands.
Tons of games, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen those games where the team comes in thinking, it's these guys again,
Mm-hmm.
right? You might have won every time you face them,
Mm-hmm.
and they can say outwardly, "Oh, it doesn't matter. We don't look ahead," but maybe they are.
Yeah.
And you just take that edge back
Well,
a little
remember,
bit,
Rochester's
and you get
playing
bit.
the back end of a back-to-back. So,
Well, then that could be it too.
That could be it,
seems like
too.
it seems like a lot of games crammed together in the first week of the season.
But, you know, playing a very good Avondale team, of
Yes.
course, you know, Avondale's girls are very good this year. I really like the way that team is built. Of course, the Yellow Jackets, they're off to a nice start. I mean, like Avondale, of course, they only played one game, but they're going to be severely tested on Friday when they play Groves. I think that's going to be a really dangerous match for Phil Dawson's team.
yeah, Groves is nasty.
Oh, my goodness. Well, when you have Shea Carter on that team, Kayla Nelson, Lauren Palmer, I mean, like,
we saw them in action
against
here in Lake Orion.
Yeah, it was I mean, we're going to talk about the Dragons. I mean,
Well, you're talking Groves, so
Groves is a very good team. They got a ton of talent back.
yeah, a lot of balance.
They got a lot of balance. They won 18 games last year. I think they're more disciplined this year under Jessica Weisler than they were under Amos Thompson. So, you know, so I think that's a huge thing for Groves right now. When you look at Groves, I mean, you know, they're off to a really nice start.
They just look really poised, you know, nothing rattled
that's what
them.
experience gets you. You know what I mean? They got a ton of experience.
Yep, nothing rattled. They look steady.
And, you know, let's not forget, you know, they're going through a coaching transition from Thompson to Weisler.
Yeah.
So, you know, so let's talk about Lake Orion. You know what I mean? Let's talk about Lake Orion. I mean, this is a team I thought looked really good against Utica Eisenhower. They
did.
They put up 51. I mean, they played really well. They were hitting some timely shots. Everything was starting to sink. Everything looked good for Coach Griffin.
And Eisenhower pushed them too. They had a lead. Eisenhower came back.
And then Lake Orion,
and then
they took the lead, and then Lake Orion answered.
Yeah, they responded and got the W.
And then the last two games, now kind of want to give the Groves game a pass here for this team.
Okay.
Because I didn't think they were ready for Groves. You know, I mean, like, you know, despite Shea Carter going off for 25, I mean, I didn't think they were ready for him. Now, Groves was very good. The game that has me disheartened with this team was Holly. Because I didn't think personally Holly was that good.
Okay.
I didn't think, besides Rebecca Fugate, they only had 8 girls play.
Holly did?
Holly.
Oh, boy.
And
good for Holly then.
And it's hard for me to describe this because 39-29 was the score of that game. And
on the road?
It was at Lake Orion. Halftime score was 15-3 Holly.
Oh, no.
That was brutal. I mean, Lake Orion right now, when I look at this team right now, and they battled back in the second half, got it down to
Foul
4.
trouble? They have foul trouble?
Well, they had foul trouble, but mental mindset's a big problem with this team.
Wow.
It is a big, big problem. And I noticed it during the warm-up. They just looked slow. They just didn't look good. They looked slow. They as mentioned earlier in the previous show, conditioning can be a concern for this team.
Conditioning, really?
Conditioning's a big time concern for this team, along with the mental mindset.
Do they have a true floor general? Do they have a leader that they rally behind?
To me, when I
sometimes
look
if you don't have that leader,
when I look at this team, they don't have that true point guard. They don't really have that true leader, that true go-to scorer. Of course, let's not forget, this has been a team that's been through a lot.
A ton.
Yes.
You
when you look at the Maddie Novak transfer, when you look at, of course, going through 3 different coaches in 3 years. I mean, this team's been through it, but this team really does not have a true floor general. They don't have a true, I think you have a good player emerging when you look at a girl like Kendall Robinson. I think she's emerging. I think that in the interior. But players like Sydney Stringer has to get it going. Cameron Coltrane has to get it going. But their mindset has to change. You know what I mean? This is a team where
they got to buy into the system that they're in.
Right? I agree. They have to buy in the system that they're in. But the problem is, it's the kids' mental mindset. You know what I mean? You could see it. I mean, if
shell-shocked in a way.
The conditioning, what I mean? They have to be more conditioned. I think they have to be more... They have to be more alert, I think, defensively.
Here's a question. How different is the system this year than over the last 2?
I think it's plenty different.
Is it completely different out of the, is it...
And I have a nice...
Or something that they can relate to, something they can roll in.
I have a nice seat from doing the book. You know what I mean?
You do. You got a great seat.
But I think the system's different. I really believe, though, they're going to have to buy into what Coach Mike Griffin's doing. I think the system's there, but it's the girls. The problem is it's the girls' mindset. It is not, and it's coaching's not the problem. I think it's the players' mindset because, and you could tell in that Holly game that the reason why they lost that game was because they got outworked and they got outplayed. That's what happened that Holly game. If you don't bring it, you're going to get beat.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in Lake Orion, was they got outplayed and they got outworked.
Yeah.
That's how I describe it.
There's one thing to have the shots not fall, because that happens to everybody, right?
If you have shots not fall, you know what I mean? If you have shots that don't fall, you know what I mean? And you're outworking teams, you know what? I live with that.
Yeah.
But when you're getting outplayed, outworked, and it clearly showed on Monday that Lake Orion got outworked and outplayed.
Well, that's unfortunate, and it's
they
it's
still
one
got
of those,
a tough schedule coming up.
And this is just the start of it. So like you said, if it's a mental mindset, how do they turn the ship around? Do they just have to accept this is where we're at, this is what we're doing, and dig in and do the best they possibly can? Just like any other team.
I think you
hope they can turn it around.
They could. I think they can. I mean, when you look at, but they've got to change a few things. This is a part where, and I think when you look at the Lake Orion girls compared to the Lake Orion boys, there's really no difference. Actually, there's plenty of difference. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think, and if I'm Coach Mike Griffin right now, I'm taking a page from Lake Orion boys basketball playbook right now, because
which page
has to be the style you play. Is basically playing. I would say basically playing a Jim Mantle type defense. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Pressing like crazy. Gonna have to basically. That's what it is. I would basically play a Jim Mantle type style of play because it's working for the boys.
Yeah.
Why not work with the girls? I think that has to be the mindset. You know, when you look at
Now, you said the girls have a down low presence.
right,
And then are they, because some teams, if you don't have that height, you kind of settle for the outside jumper or you rely on 3-point line.
Lake Orion's been relying a lot on that 3-point shooting lately. I mean, when you look at a team like Stony Creek, you know what I mean? And you look at them, I mean, like, yeah, they got some inside presence, but they also got some shooters. They rely on, they have a true star player, you know, and Emily Eckhart. Lake Orion really does not have that true they really don't have that true leader in the guards right now. And until then somebody has to take control of that ship. Yeah. And I think it has to happen.
And what's the makeup? Seniors to juniors to
there's a
kind of sprinkle all over?
It's kind of sprinkled all over when you look at that team. And then of course the team that I saw was Rochester Adams. I thought Adams, you know, they play hard, they work hard. I mean, you know, when I saw them play against Martell's Mercy, I mean, like, I thought they looked lazy at times defensively. But other than that, you know, they got Adams, the team I think could make some noise. But at the end of the day, I just think that you know, but they have a very good player, Michaela Smith, who can shoot. Very good player, dynamic. They have a sophomore as well, who's pretty good as well. But, you know, that's my take on Adams, you know. Yeah. And we'll see what happens as it turns out. But I think for Lake Orion, they have to get a lot of things fixed before their next game on Tuesday at Pontiac Notre Dame Prep. I think if they can get it fixed, I think, you know, this could be, I still believe this team can do very well this year.
And after that game, you mentioned that there's going to be a long stretch, right? I mean, so if they can go in that with all they have and the early season on a positive note, that could pay dividends down the road. They got a difficult
schedule. I mean, you still got to play, you still have to play. I mean, you got to play Romeo, which is going to be tough for them. Notre Dame Prep, obviously. Got Seaholm and Davison sprinkled in as well, but, you know, then you still got Oxford.
If you struggle to score, it's going to be a difficult matter who you go against. No matter
who you go against. So, Lake Orion's got some issues right now when you look at that surrounding their girls' team. Stony Creek, I would say, is fine. I'd say Rochester right now has got some issues. Troy's a team I think could be a team to keep an eye on. Seaholm, I think, has got some issues. Southfield Arts and Tech, I wouldn't press the panic button on them yet. Clarkston, you know, they're coming off. They're 1-1, but I'm a little concerned about their defense. Look shaky against Ypsilanti Arbor Prep, where they blew a 10-point lead in that one and lost 48-45.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, but they bounced back with the win against Pontiac Notre Dame Preparatory on Tuesday night. So basically, when you look at that one, you know, Clarkston right now, I wouldn't press the panic button on them right now. I would say right now the best teams in the red now are right now Southfield Arts and Tech, Clarkston, right now North Farmington. You know what I mean? Wow. Right now in that third spot, and then the white division, I still think it's going to be it's Royal Oak and Groves. It's those two teams. In the blue division, I think it's Avondale's Toulouse. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, now I'm going to sign it off here, everybody here. Take care, everybody. Good luck next week. Good luck this week. Rest of the week, everybody.
A lot of good games.
A lot of good games to go to. A lot of good boys games. A lot of good girls games to go to this weekend. So see what happens. Take care, everybody, and see y'all next week.
See you, Sam. Oaa Now is produced by Sammy Taramina. I almost called you by your brother's name. All of the thoughts on this show are his and his alone, do not represent those of the OAA or its member schools or ONTV and its board of directors. If you'd like to produce your own podcast, give us a call at 248-393-1060.